Hey everybody, welcome back to One Out RV. On this week's episode, I got a bunch of new packages that we're going to make some big upgrades to the Airstream. Let's check it out. Remember, if you want to learn more and make less mistakes while RVing, be sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like and a comment down below. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. So if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that last summer I changed out the Montana, my 2022 Keystone Montana fifth wheel for some Torklift International Glow Revolutionary steps. Okay, there were these amazing steps that I made a big upgrade to. I'll show you a little link to that video right here if you want to check it out. But that company reached back out to me and asked if I wanted the same thing for the new Airstream. So I said, yeah, absolutely. I mean, they were great steps. I absolutely loved them. So they sent me the steps. They also sent me a hitch to add to the rear bumper, and they also sent me a gas lock kit. So we're gonna go ahead and get this stuff open. We're gonna start small. We're gonna start with the gas lock kit, get it installed, and so let's go ahead and check this thing out. So again, the first thing we're gonna do is go and install what they call the Fortress Gaslock, and it's basically just this little device mechanism that goes up on the top of the tanks here on the Airstream and just locks it in place so that no one can just come up and steal your propane tank. So let's go ahead and just check it out, see what it is. So inside our box here, we basically have the actual lock itself, which just threads onto the top there. We got a set of keys with a washer in there. We got a little sticker if you want to add that on. You know me, I'm not going to do that type of thing though. And then of course the instructions. So this looks pretty simple. This looks like this basically just gets unlocked. This gets threaded on the top over your existing one. But let's go ahead and just read the instructions and see exactly how this stuff all goes and get it put on. Here's just a quick diagram kind of depicting how this thing kind of goes on there over top of your pre-existing, you know, very, very large wing nut that is on your Airstream propane tanks. This stuff just kind of goes over top and that comes on top there, and then the lock gets it all locked in place. So let's go ahead and put it on. Step one is to go ahead and just remove your old handle. So we're gonna go ahead and get this out of the way. Next thing, in typical Airstream setup, your bracket here is on top, right? This wing nut is usually below it, and you have the handle on top of just this. But in my case, because I upgraded to 40-gallon tanks, I have a little bit different configuration, but it's still gonna work just the same. So I'm gonna go ahead and take my wing nut off. Now with the wing nut off, I can go ahead and take the actual lock mechanism and put this on top. Again, actually do it right there. That way it's hitting the top bracket still. And turn it around just to see if you can see. It's hitting that top bracket there, so it can't spin. And this is gonna we're gonna come down with the actual lock and lock it in place. So now we take our washer, put it over, and we take the lock portion and we start to thread it down. Now once you have this threaded down and you get it nice and tight, all you're gonna do is line up, you know, one of your sets of holes here like that, and then the lock comes in from the bottom up and through. And I can't do this with one hand, but then the lock portion just clicks on with the key. You turn the key and you leave it. Now I got the key portion on there. As you can see, you can't turn this. Cannot turn it because it stays locked down there. It cannot move until this gets removed out of the way. So that is how the Fortress Gaslock works. Keeps your propane tanks safe from being able to be, you know, decently easily able to be stolen. Now you can't remove this without some either pretty special tools or a key. All right, so the next project we're gonna go ahead and do is the Glowstep Revolution steps that they sent me. Now for the Airstream, they also sent me these adapters that, because of the bolt pattern, they don't match up. So make sure that if you are ordering these, you get the adapters as well. And again, I'll put a link in the description below to where you can buy all this stuff. Obviously, step one in replacing these steps is removing the old steps. Now I believe it's just 4 bolts here in the 4 corners, like there's one right here, there's one behind it, and 2 on the opposite ends. I think it's just those 4 bolts and this whole thing drops out. So let me go get some sockets and we'll get this thing removed. So I got a couple of bolts removed. I only got 2 left in 2 opposite corners, but that is all that this is, just those 4 bolts and the 4 corners. On this particular Airstream, this is a 14mm wrench to get these bolts off, and then the stairs are gonna drop out. Obviously, this is probably a 2-man job because these last 2 bolts, once one comes off, it's gonna be uneven. So you kind of keep pressure up and, you know, get the stairs down gently without damaging anything else. All right, so the next thing is to go and get these brackets in place. So I already have this one just kind of up here to show you that it hits the first and the third hole. Now this one I already have completely in place and locked in, and now the new steps will go into these holes right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this side tightened up and show you the next step. So now I have all my hardware laid out here. I got my bolts, washers, lock washers, and nuts all ready to go. And essentially what happens is we're gonna go ahead and lift up the main set of stairs. Okay, here's the whole thing, I just kind of pulled out. And lift them up into place. I got my nephew here who's gonna help me hold them in place and get these bolts sent through, locked up, and tightened up. So we're just gonna get them set in place, and I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. All right, so now I got the steps bolted up in place. Like I said, we got the bolts that just went through these spots into the mounting bracket that I just had mounted on both sides. Now I will say that this little crack right here was very difficult to get those washers and nut in place, just because I couldn't really get my finger through there very efficiently. But we did make it happen using some magnet. So like I said, I had to use a telescopic magnet tool to get those washers on there. It did take me quite some time. It was not easy, but now that those are on there, I got all this stuff all tightened up real nice and good and made the adjustments. So let me show you the steps. All right, so now the steps have their landing gear down. You can see they're all aluminum, nice and clean, much more stable. They don't move at all because there's, you know, an actual point on the ground. So again, with these steps, just like they were on the Montana, the landing gear have adjustable pins depending on your height, and you can do two separate heights. So like in this case, this driveway is a little bit sloped, so I have this one down a little bit further than this one. And the steps are all very nice aircraft grade aluminum with the little glow strips on the steps so you can see them at night. All right, so let me just do a quick demonstration of how these things get tucked away. All right, so you just go ahead and pick it up and you press in, and then now that part of it's good. You take your handles, you just lift up from either side, does not matter. You just lift up and they go in, and that's it. Now you can even have this little locking pin, and the thing just locks in place, and now these things can't move. Going in reverse, you just take your pin out, you lift your handle up, pull the steps down, and then you pull them all the way down to the ground. And that's where you can make your adjustments depending on where you're at, what kind of surface you're on, concrete, rocks, gravel, dirt. These things work so much better than any stock step that's out there. I'd sure say it's a really nice upgrade. I mean, going from those, you know, just pure black steps that just over time get rusty and they don't really look very good. And of course, they're not nearly as stable because whenever you put weight on them, they're just leaning off of the trailer, versus now these are actually stepped or, you know, pressed down to the ground. So you got 3 points of contact there, you know, or at least 2 points of contact, you know, on the ground and up on the RV versus just hanging on the RV. So great upgrade. And again, they're way safer, right? They got little grooves on them. They're the glow portions in the corners. Now you can see that at night, so they're easier to see, so you don't kick your shin. I mean, I just absolutely love them. All right, so now the last thing that Torklift went ahead and sent me is this hitch receiver, bumper mounted hitch receiver for the Airstream. Again, they have these available on the website depending on your frame width. Because this is for a certain width of frame, so just measure for what you're doing. Now the install process itself, I'm not going to show you, but I will talk about it, just because at the end of the day, this is something that I'm not going to recommend a standard DIY kind of person do it unless you're very comfortable drilling really big holes into your frame. I do not recommend this project. Take it to a professional, have someone install it. There's tons of companies out there on the road that you can get bumper hitches installed, but let me go ahead and show you how it does get installed very quickly. Essentially all it is drilling your frame for these bolts here on both ends and getting those holes mounted. Now that was the most difficult part. You got to be very accurate. You got to keep everything very square. Once those are drilled through and you have your bolts through, then you can mount these end plates, which is what the actual hitch itself mounts to. And again, there's some grade 8 bolts that go through the top, and the very end, these bolts go through the front. Tightening everything up, all these bolts, all to a certain torque spec. Again, it's a very complex job. I do not recommend doing this unless you're extremely comfortable. Now, not only is this hitch have its own weight rating, but obviously you got to remember that your trailer has a weight rating. Now this hitch, I can't remember specifically, but I know that it is rated for a significant more amount than what the trailer itself could take. All I ever plan on putting back here would be some type of little like cargo rack, cargo carrier, or more specifically for me, it's going to be my e-bikes. That's probably what I'm going to put back here and take them with me whenever I want to. But I wouldn't be triple towing with this type of thing. I don't think the Airstream frame and everything like that is really meant for that. It'd have to be a really, really, really small trailer. And even then, I don't recommend that type of thing. But again, the bumper mount hitch, pretty easy to install if you know what you're doing. It did not take me all that long. It just, it's just a bit of a process. So now we got the bumper hitch done. We got those Glowstep Revolution steps done, and I got the propane lock done. I can't thank Torklift enough for sending me those things. They are awesome, awesome products. I really appreciate it. Hands down, I highly recommend for the majority of people that propane lock is a great little investment. And then the steps, that is an awesome, awesome, awesome upgrade. And of course, if you do need that bumper hitch for like a cargo rack, for your bikes, for something like that, this product was great, very simple, easy to install, as long as you know what you're doing. Like I said, it's just a little bit more complex than any other typical install, like putting those steps in it really wasn't too difficult. But this is a little bit more complex, and again, unless you're extremely comfortable with doing that type of thing, I don't recommend it. I would just recommend having someone do it for you. And that's it for this week's video. I appreciate you guys for watching. Make sure to drop a like, hit the like button, drop a comment below, hit the subscribe button, make sure to turn on the notification bells. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching Why Not RV. Bye.